Welcome back to A Bite from the Money Sandwich, where we provide practical and easy to understand tips and ideas on how to manage your money better, so as to let you retire with comfort and on your own terms. How can your home or office layout shape your energy, mindset, and even your money? Today, I'm joined by Jane Langof, who is a multi-award winning Feng Shui Master and speaker and founder of Feng Shui Concepts. Jane shares how the flow of energy in your environment can influence your mental, physical, and financial well-being. She offers practical tips like decluttering your entrance to invite opportunity, positioning your desk to feel empowered at work, and incorporating plants and colors to boost prosperity and harmony. Jane also explains how understanding sunlight, building orientation, and natural elements can create spaces that nurture both your mindset and your finances. So whether you're new to Feng Shui or simply looking for small changes with a big impact, this episode offers inspiring and actionable ideas to create balance in your life and money. Hello, Jane, and welcome to the show.
Hi, Mark. It's so great to be here.
Well, it's something I'm really looking forward to because I was saying to you before this, I have a Chinese background. So this is a topic that has very much interested me for a long time, but it actually, from your point of view and coming from a corporate finance background, that's a pretty big leap. So could you actually take us how you came into this feng shui, I'm going to say, feng shui?
Yeah. Right. Well, I was an accountant for 15 years. So it was my first career. I did it for a long time. And when I was pregnant with my first child, I wasn't going back to my job anymore. I accepted a redundancy and with the view that I was going to start a family. And when I had my first daughter, one of my friends met me and she said, "Hey, Jane, you need to go and see this psychic. She's really amazing." This psychic, her name's Kerry Irwin. And I thought, oh, okay, I'll go and see her. It was something that kind of interested me. I wasn't really on the fence about it. I thought it's something that is, I can't say whether it's 100% or not at that time, but
Something fun to do.
yeah, a lot of fun. So I went along and what she said blew my mind because she connected with my father who passed away when I was a teenager. And she told me things about him that she could not have possibly known. And then she said to me, right, the corporate career is over. You need to go and study interior design.
Yeah.
And I loved that idea because at the time we just finished a renovation of our home and I was into all of the design books and all of that sort of thing. And accounting didn't really inspire me that much, but the interior design did. So I went to design school and I studied. And then there was a break in the course halfway through the course. There was a break, and I went back to the psychic, and she said to me, "Oh, don't worry about this. Now you need to study feng shui and combine the two." And I thought, "Wow, bingo! This is awesome. I love the idea of having a niche because there are a million interior designers out there. So why not specialize in something?" So I did. I started those studies, and once I opened those feng shui books, I knew that was where I needed to be. And instead of it being interior design with a bit of feng shui on the side, it became feng shui practiced in a beautiful and practical way. And since then, the psychic that I mentioned, she now helps me when I work with clients who've got spirits in their homes or premises.
Wow.
She's like the Ghostbuster. So it's a crazy story, but that's where we landed, and I couldn't be happier. I've been doing feng shui now since that the first time I met the psychic was in 2006. So practicing feng shui since.
And I think it's
probably-
different. You come from a corporate world, so you understand that world. So it's not as if you're always, on that creative side or that mystical side, whatever, you want to put umbrella around this, but you came from the corporate. So it's quite interesting that, yes, you can see both sides of it.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And I do connect with corporate people. So I'm very comfortable sitting in a boardroom and talking to the architects or the directors of a business or whatever about these concepts, because feng shui is something something that is, yeah, it can be seen as a bit mystical. It has ties to superstition, although true Feng Shui is not really about superstition or religion. It's about energy flow. And what I say to my clients is that Feng Shui is important to a lot of people in the community. And regardless of whether you believe in the concepts or not, or say that you believe in them or not, it has an impact on property value. It has an
Mm.
impact on who's going to show up at your venue if you've got a commercial premises, who is going to feel comfortable in your office space if you've got clients who are interested in Feng Shui or clients who have an Asian background.
Yeah,
So
and
there is definite return on investment there which is what appeals to me, and allows me to express I guess the value of Feng Shui to people who otherwise wouldn't consider it.
I think that's really is important because I've seen so many people in small businesses over the years who are very creative, who've designed whatever widget or come up with some great idea, but they actually don't have the commercial side of it. They don't know how to work on their business. They're just in their business. They just don't know how to work on it. And you see so many businesses just don't work because of that. So you can absolutely see, yes, this is something interesting and creative, but I definitely need to make this a business if it's going to work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely
Now,
need to. And having that experience in the corporate world has helped. Being exposed to the sales and the marketing and all that has been really beneficial to me. And of course, starting a business was not difficult, having the accounting background.
absolutely. And you're absolutely right. We're both in Sydney, and as we're seeing the diversity of our cultures and the people, and especially the area I'm in, we have a huge Chinese. And so I've got a Chinese background, and it just works. It really does. But I'm absolutely seeing, if I'm thinking of putting our house on the market, at least half the people that will be turning up will be Chinese. So you do have to think, well, what suits them if they're going to be the buyers. So it is just an interesting concept. But I probably think we've just jumped a little bit far ahead for a lot of people, and you're just touching on that. So I really want to go down that path of what actually is feng shui, because I think a lot of people, when you said the word energy, and I think time and energy are going to be two very, very big topics next over the next 10 years. And I have an engineering background, and I very much did a flip on my career too. And there's a bit of a story of someone who advised me, not quite the same as you, but similar. But I learned very early on that energy from crystals was an actual force. That every radio needed a crystal to get a frequency to actually work. So energy is real. It's just people sort of put energy, unfortunately, in that umbrella of mystic or just, I don't know. If someone said woo woo, woo woo. So no, please, it'd be good to just explain a bit more how you understand feng shui and how it works.
Yeah, so Feng Shui is the art of arranging your living and work spaces to create the optimal flow of energy. It's about your relationship with your environment and your surroundings, and how the energy in your surroundings can impact you on a mental, physical, and spiritual level. So it originated, thousands of years ago in China, and ancient Chinese masters discovered that different patterns of energy affected the human body and mind. When What they found was that when people were aligned with positive energy, they experienced periods of great fortune, whereas if they were aligned with negative energy, they experienced misfortune and obstacles. And from these observations came a defined set of guidelines, rules, mathematical systems, formulas that form the basis of feng shui today. So true feng shui is not based on superstition or religion. It's really about energy flow and getting that energy flow right in your surroundings to support all of those things that we want to achieve, the success, the harmony, the well-being, all of that sort of thing. So it's a big umbrella. There's a lot to consider. It's We're looking at the physical arrangements of a space. So what you can see, what you can sense with your five senses, and also the intangible energy within a space also. So that intangible energy is measured through looking at the energy map of a home or a building, which is like a horoscope that a feng shui master can read and can tell me where the positive and negative energy sectors are. So, where's the wealth sector, for example? Where's the best energy for harmony, health, and relationships? And how to harmonize that energy. And we harmonize that energy not through using the lucky objects and the waving cat and the golden toads with the coins spitting out of their mouths and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's about using the 5 elements that are used in Chinese metaphysics. And those 5 elements are fire, earth, metal, water, and wood. And each of those elements relates to a particular color, shape, and material. So we can really incorporate those feng shui remedies into a space to harmonize that energy in a beautiful and practical way without those tacky, lucky objects.
Yeah. Okay. Um, and actually, I
Full
want to
time
actually get
practical.
sorry, uh, and I want to actually get down to the actual practical side, from a cluttered house and all that. But you actually said about well-being, and I think that's really quite a topical topic, with especially since COVID, well-being, mental well-being, physical well-being have never been thought about or in a workplace and a home more than that is right now. And people who thought 10 years ago well-being was just airy fairy, really take it seriously now. Well, this is something going back a couple of thousand years with China, but they're obviously, when you're talking about harmony, well-being, they thought about this 2,000 years ago.
Well, that's it. And if you've got if you're feeling like you're in an environment that's supportive and where your well-being is nurtured, well, then you can perform to your maximum when it comes to your work and uh, you know, making money and doing all of those things that you need to do to thrive.
And can you give us here practical, okay, let's just do some practical examples. Like, if it was a really cluttered house or somewhere like that,
Yes.
or that may not be it. It's more where things are positioned in the house. So just some practical examples so people can understand if they're even, yeah. And so if they were walking away today from this podcast and just sort of looking at their house, here's 2 or 3 quick examples, as well as overall maybe how it all works.
Yeah. So, well, clutter. Let's talk about clutter for a minute because clutter is public enemy number one of feng shui.
Okay.
Clutter blocks energy flow, creates worry, makes people depressed, leaves little room for new opportunities to enter your life. So clutter has a big impact on feng shui. Although clutter was not around 6,000 years ago when feng shui was developed, it wasn't a thing. But we have to move with the times, and clutter does impact the energy flow of a home. So if I can give you one big takeaway from this conversation, it's just try and reduce the clutter as much as possible. So spending time just looking at the big ticket items in your home are your bedroom and your front entrance. So the front entrance is known as the gateway to wealth. So we don't want obstacles and shoes scattered around everywhere. You know, want things
Yep.
organized in a good way. Have a focal point at your entrance where you can draw positive energy inside. And then that positive energy then feeds in through to the rest of the home. So it's about getting rid of reducing the negative energy where possible and inviting the positive energy in and helping it to meander through the home rather than move too quickly in straight lines. So
Oh, okay.
some people might have heard about that from a feng shui perspective. It's not great to have your front door in direct alignment with your back door.
Mm.
And from a feng shui perspective, it suggests that money is not contained well, that money comes in and money flies out too quickly out the back. And so what you want to do is contain that energy. So the ideal is to have a foyer at the front entrance where that energy can be contained, and then you can nurture that and it moves through the rest of the home in a sort of controlled fashion. And so then the question is, well, what do you do? A lot of homes in Australia have that front door and in direct alignment with the back door.
I was about to ask.
Well, you
Yeah.
slow that energy flow down. So things like you could possibly have a pendant light, a circular pendant light in the entrance or down the hallway. You could have a beautiful runner rug that slows that energy down, or artwork down the walls or photographs. Because if you think about a kid standing at a front entrance where there's nothing and it's a direct hallway from the front to the back, a toddler, like they will just go racing from the front to the back.
Yes.
That's how kind of the energy works. But if you have things in the way, not to create obstacles, but there might be a beautiful console table with some lovely accessories and artwork and so forth. It helps you to have a moment and slow that energy flow down. So
Yeah,
that's the
that
idea.
makes sense.
Yeah.
I remember we were in Shanghai, and we bought this lovely little lion with puts it and having its paw on a coin, and they said always put that at your front entrance on a table or something similar, and we've always done that. But I can't even remember why, but it's sort of making sense to what you're saying. Does colors make a difference?
Yes, colors absolutely make a difference. They, from a color psychology point of view, they stimulate different thought, energies and thought patterns and things. From a feng shui perspective, they colors relate to particular elements, and so if you get your home assessed by a feng shui master, it's about knowing what elements need to go where and what colors are ideal in certain spaces. And then this doesn't mean that you make a different each room a different color,
Yeah.
but there are sort of there are guidelines. So generally speaking, it's great to have sort of a neutral, calming palette throughout a home,
Okay.
and bring in pops of color through this energy map that I'm talking about, through artwork and accessories in certain places. But the whole space needs to feel cohesive.
Right.
So elegant, sort of cohesive background helps you to feel calmer in a space. The color green is really good because it connects you to nature.
Hmm.
So it helps you to feel that level of calmness.
But a soft green.
Oh, yeah, that's right, soft green. So and having plants and things. So
Yes. Yeah.
that's a pretty something fairly safe. A sort of sage green, soft greens.
Yeah. I remember
In
just quickly on my 20s, a girl I knew in Brisbane, and she loved the color green. Every room she had in her house was a different shade of green. It was a bit
Wow.
overwhelming, but she just loved the color green. But sorry, I interrupted.
Yeah, that's all right. That sounds that's a bit
Yeah,
hardcore.
it is a bit. It is a bit.
But yeah, green is great. So if you think about an office space, for example, it's nice to have some plants there. I see you've got both of us have plants in our rooms. Living plants are ideal. I know a lot of people have the fakies. There's still merit in that it still helps to bring that a bit of that connection to nature and helps you to feel calm on a visual sort of basis, but it doesn't recycle the indoor air. So nothing's like the real thing.
Yes, I imagine. True. Now, one of the things is actually because you've said about the plants, there's
Yeah.
bamboo, the money plant, the Chinese money plant that a lot of people
Yeah.
have, and I always had one at the front of my office. Uh, is that a thing? Is that something? Someone told me that, but I wasn't ever quite sure whether that was true. And I don't know from a feng shui point of view whether or not.
Oh, I think there are things that you can link with that help you to feel lucky in your home, and if you want to have those, then great. There are different types of money plants. So there's one that's a jade plant. Is I don't know if that's the one that you've got, but it's a succulent and it's got round leaves. So there are jade plants. They're also referred to as money plants, and there are other plants that are money plants that they're flat. They have flat round leaves. Is that the one that you've got?
I think it's yeah, what you just said. Yes, the latter.
The
Yeah.
flat round leaves that
Mm.
are generally used as little pot plants. So the reason why they're seen as auspicious is because the round leaves look like coins.
Ah, okay, right.
So there's the symbolic elements of that.
Okay,
Yeah,
and
it doesn't necessarily mean that you put the money plant there and you're gonna instantly become Bill Gates.
no, but
But
yeah,
if
I
you
think it's really nice.
associate that, if it's in an energy zone that's, let's say it's your wealth sector, and it's in a really good energy zone, then yeah, that's supportive for the energy to have a green plant there. And also if it helps to bring that lucky feeling to you, and you look at that and it gives you you water it, gives you a visual reminder, okay, I've got to work on my business. What are my goals? What am I focusing on? It also has an impact as well.
Mm. I think that's and it does that for me actually. Watering it in the morning,
Yeah.
it just makes me just remind me, yep, need to work on the business. So from a commercial point of view, is there people if they're in offices, as you said, having a plant there, uh, what would we see some practical tips from an office point of view people can do?
Yeah, so the from an office, we wanna have, if you can, sit with your back towards a solid wall.
Oh, okay. Yep.
So if you think of a room, let's think about a home office because that's really easy to consider. You wanna sit in the area that's diagonally opposite the door, not in a diagonal position. So the area in your room that's diagonally opposite a door, because that's where the energy is most contained. So that's like the wealth corner of can be seen as like a wealth corner of the room where the energy is most contained. So we want to have the desk there with your back towards a solid wall with a view to nature if possible. So if you can see outdoors, see some trees, that's fantastic. If you can't, then have a plant. But a plant is good anyway.
Okay.
It's
And
on
I remember I
something.
had this discussion with a person once when they were setting up their office.
Yeah.
And it was I can't actually remember if it was diagonal, but it was on the other side of the room, and that was also where the window was, and they had their back to that front door so they could look out the window. But I said, "No, I would always have it that I face, towards the door because that's when people are going to come in." I didn't wanna have my back to them. So, one wanted the view, one wanted and my view was to yeah, for anyone coming into that room, I wanted to make sure I could see them.
Was this in
Yes.
a commercial sense? Okay. So that's really interesting because I remember back to my corporate days and I had a boss who liked to change his desk positions around. And once he had it in the good feng shui sort of way where you've got the back against a solid wall view to the door because it gives you that authority when you've got the
Mm,
protection of the solid wall and you can see who's coming. That's good for the clear vision and all that sort of thing. And then he moved it so that his back was more towards the door, so when people walked in, they saw his back. And what we found was that he wasn't disturbed anywhere near as much. People wouldn't come up and talk to him like he was when he was in that position where you could
mm.
see. But that position where you've got your back to the wall, that's more of a backstabbing sort of position, so you can be energetically more prone to, getting the office politics and that sort of thing.
Yeah, it just seemed wrong, but I also understood from his point of view, if I'm sitting at my desk all day, why would I look at a door? I'd rather look at the view and have that. So I understood that, but I just said it just felt wrong that he had his back to the door.
But can you do both? Where
Yeah.
your desk is sort of perpendicular to the window so that you can still see the door as well. It depends on the layout of,
Is there
but
actually
but it's
an example of like a practical example where you've gone and you've helped someone where they just
yeah.
sort of say, absolutely, I can see, because that was you sort of touched on with that boss, but that was more by accident. But you've gone in, they've had a problem, and it's fixed by having the feng shui.
Absolutely. So I worked with an aspiring author who
Okay.
was who was working in a little room that didn't have any windows at all, was in the middle of the home. And I assessed her energy map and I saw that there was better energy in this particular zone of her home that happened to be near a window that overlooked the pool. And I advised her to do her writing outside of that little office and take it to the dining table where this space was, but not sit at the same space as where she eats in a different location, right? We don't want to be tapping into that energy of where we eat all the time. So I put her in a different position there, back towards the solid wall, the view out to nature, and she noticed a great difference in how she was inspired with her creativity, and then she ended up with a publishing deal.
Oh.
So that was a great story.
Mm. And you just touched on there, not
Yeah.
working where you eat.
No.
And I know a lot of people, especially with COVID, their workbench was their eating bench and so their kitchen table. But now people have a bit more. So that's not.
I would move around. So if you need to use your dining table as your space to do your work, I would just change positions.
I like
So location has memory. Jay Shetty says this from his book, I Think Like a Monk. Location has memory, time, a location has energy, time has memory. So moving the location to a different space will have a different energy, even if you're just shifting your seat around your dining table.
That's a great quote. Can you do that again? Say that again, please.
Yeah. Location has energy, time has memory.
Yeah.
Quote by Jay Shetty.
Yeah, that's brilliant, actually. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so you've given a couple of practical tips. Is there anything? Yeah, and even the clutter. And I know, speaking to a lot of people my age, they're either thinking of downsizing or moving, um, and just getting rid of stuff is just
Yeah,
difficult. Uh,
it is.
any practical tips on
Yeah. Okay.
decluttering?
Yes. Firstly, think about your stuff. And I know people want to hold on to their things, but consider whether there's something that you've got that could be could be released out there to the universe and used by somebody and cherished by someone more than you. You might have a linen cabinet that's just chockers full of stuff that you really don't need all of that. And you could donate some blankets or something, that's really useful for somebody in need. So think about your items and whether you really need, use, or love them. And then look, I'm a big fan of working with home organizers. And I've done that before. I've worked with home organizers and you can do it yourself for sure. And if you're doing it yourself, start small. Just start with a drawer. And then what you find is that the energy starts flowing and then you can really get into it. Put yourself in the zone, have some really cool music, but give yourself that time and don't make it overwhelming in that, okay, I need to declutter this whole house and it's going to take me 3 weeks. Just work on a small space at a time and then it becomes manageable.
Okay.
But if you really want to have a good crack at it, working with a home organizer is the way to go because they've locked you in for a certain time. You're paying for it. They're on the clock. Like you've got to get this done, and then they're actually doing a lot of the stuff and thinking where the best places are for things, how to organize them the best, and you're just saying, okay, this can go, that can go, and it just makes the process so much faster,
Okay.
and you can really get through it quickly. So
I never didn't even know there was a thing. So there's actually professional home
absolutely.
organizers now.
Yeah, and speak to me because I've got a network of home organizers that I use.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure when you're going into people's home and first thing you just see the energy block because there's just so much clutter.
Not always, because I don't always work with people who've got cluttered homes. Like I work with people who are building or renovating and they would just want to make sure they're getting the energy right in their designs. So
Okay.
look, I went to a consult the other day and it was perfect in terms of clutter. It was just about, has she got things in the right space? Do we have the right elements in the right area? Is she facing her aligned with her favorable directions based on her birth dates? So there's a lot to consider.
Yeah. And you were actually saying return on investment at the very beginning, and people uh, are looking at a home if they're going to buy a home. If you're looking to sell and someone's looking to buy a home, and they say, "Well, yes, we've had a feng shui assessment." Sorry, is it as simple as at the end, once you've actually done or explained everything, you get a certificate, or what do you actually? Is it a dumb question? Oh, so
No, not at all. And it's a question that I get asked all the time. So, can I provide certification that this place has good feng shui? It's a little difficult to do that because when you have to consider the people who are living in the home as well. So
ah,
a home that's suitable for me might not be suitable for you, or a home that's suitable for a 20 something is not suitable for a 60 something, or somebody that's expanding their family. So it's really dependent on the people who are living in their home. Their, as I mentioned before, their birth dates, their energy. So we look at that. And also, but the thing is that when you are building, there's a big opportunity here when people are building or renovating their homes. What I do is I will whack my sign up on the construction fencing to let people know that this place has had the feng shui treatment.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's, I guess, the stamp of approval, and that's
Mm.
it's not the certificate at the end, but if you're building a home and it takes you a year, well then there's a year's worth of advertising that this place has
True.
good feng shui,
True.
or that you're doing what you can, because there's no such thing as perfect feng shui,
Okay.
but it's just about maximizing the energy where you can.
Mm. And leads also to the Australian context. When we built our house 20 years ago, the architect said, well, we're building it, you've got a north-facing outlook, so we need to maximize that with glass, a pool, or just an open area to entertain. In 20 years, when your kids are older, this will be a perfect setting. And I think that would be very different if you're in England or a colder climate. So do you actually work with an Australian context as well with feng shui?
Absolutely. So I mentioned to you that we need to look at the physical aspects of a building, the layout, the floor plan, and that also very much considers the path of the sun. That is like a main source of energy into a home. Apart from the people that are walking in from the street or walking in from the garage and so forth, the path of the sun is so important. It makes a massive difference to how well you feel in the home, whether your home is more prone to getting mold or not, how it can capture the pleasant breezes and shield against that harsh winds, and allow the beautiful warm northerly light to come in or not. So the orientation of a home and the design is so important, and ties in with sustainability as well.
Yes, well, that will be, the sustainability is becoming such a big thing now in design and the way you have your whole house set up. Okay, this has been fascinating. Thank you very much, Jane. The half hour has just flown by. Uh,
Yeah.
I always ask my guests, just the very last question is, have you received a piece of advice? And you've already given us some great pieces of advice already, but is there something that really resonated with you that you could share with the listeners?
Yes, I have, and that is, if I think about, there's a podcast I really like listening to. It's called The Mindset Mentor. Have you ever heard of that one?
No.
Mindset Mentor. It's a great podcast. And what Rob Dial says is, easy now, hard later. So you make the choice for easy now or hard later, or hard now and easy later. So that's a
Right.
philosophy that I've employed in my life. Like, don't take the easy road, because you'll make things harder for yourself later on. So that's translated to things like fitness, for example, and
Mm.
exercise. So yeah, I can feel very comfortable laying around on the lounge and scrolling on Instagram or whatever, but that's not really gonna, later on, I'm gonna have to pay the price for that. So get my butt to the gym and exercise, or go for that walk or whatever,
Yeah.
and do something good for yourself, even though you have to pay a little price now.
Yeah, no, it's very good because it's someone I even spoke to last week just says, I don't even think of the future. I just live now, day to day. And life. And I said, well, you should be really trying to build something for the future. I said, no, just can't do it. I just live day to day. And I thought, but that fits perfectly with what you're saying. Sometimes you've just you got to maybe even bit of both, but you've got to be thinking of the future.
Well, you know what? That person that you spoke to, what I'd say to them is, you're under no obligation to be the person that you were 5 minutes ago. You are not a tree, and you can always change.
Absolutely. Perfect. I actually like that piece of advice too. Jane, this has been really lovely. So really appreciate you coming on the show. I think I've said feng shui 5 different ways during this whole thing, but hopefully I've got it right now. But just been really, really interesting. And thank you again for being on the show.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks so much, Mark.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you'd like to know more about Jane Langof, visit www.fengshuiconcepts.com.au or feel free to email me on admin@themoneysandwich.com or visit our website, themoneysandwich.com, if you have any questions or want to learn more. Want more practical, easy to understand tips and action lists to help with your money stuff? The latest version of my book, The Money Sandwich, is now available to order on Booktopia and Amazon, as well as available at all popular bookstores. Everyone deserves to retire comfortably and on their own terms. Make this the year you take action. As with every podcast, this information is not advice, as not personalised to your own situation. And past performance is never guaranteed for the future. What we are trying to do here is to provide tips, coaching and education to help improve your money knowledge, which we believe can only be a good thing. See you next time when we take another bite from the Money Sandwich.